We're ready. Okay, so just start. Monica, thank you so much for meeting with me today to talk about your business 2020 Vintage
Thank you,
here
Holly.
downtown Corpus Christi. Can you describe 2020 Vintage and what inspired you to start your business here?
So I've lived in Corpus Christi for about 34 years. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I raised 3 children at home. They went to school and I volunteered at their school, quite a bit. I was very active in their school. So, if they needed us to cut, whatever it was that the school needed, I was there. If they wanted to do fruit cups one day, I was there. So I was always doing something. And I really cherished the school that my children went to. But once they got older and were in college, and I really didn't have anything to do with my time. And so I have always been a thrifter, and I've always done estate sales and garage sales, and I will even trash pick through people's stuff that they have.
We love garage sales and estate sales and thrift stores.
Yeah. So if somebody has a piece of furniture out on their yard that they're, wanting somebody to take, I will be that person. I don't. And so I'm not real handy with my hands. So I usually try to have my husband help me. But how 2020 came about was I just went to a couple of estate sales within a 7-day period and acquired probably 200 pieces of jewelry.
Oh, wow.
And so, this was, what was interesting was it was 2 different collectors. One collector was from probably the early 1800s to probably 1980s. And the second collector was from the 1990s to 2000s. So I pretty much had.
You hit the jackpot with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I reached out to a friend of mine and said, hey, I have all this jewelry and I don't really know what I need to sell it. I need to get into a little vintage store, an antique mall. And she recommended a place called Alley Cats here in Corpus Christi. They're actually on Ayers. And I started there with a booth. I had a case of jewelry and a little small section, and I took so much pride in it. And I was there almost every day. And I'm sure I drove the owner crazy because I was so proud of what I had started.
Yes.
And I started getting a following, and mostly for the jewelry. And within 3 months or 2 months after I opened, or I was in that a little antique store, an opportunity came up for me to look at a place in downtown Corpus Christi. So coincidentally, the downtown management district put me in contact with the owner of this building that I'm in now. And it so happened that that owner I had served sandwiches to when I had a downtown deli many years ago. Before my kids were, my oldest daughter was 18 months, and I decided to open up a deli with a friend of mine. And that was probably.
And y'all remembered each other.
Yes. Well, yes. So when I saw the name, I knew exactly who it was. So I reached out to Buzz Maxwell, and he showed me the space, and I said I would take it. So I moved in May. I signed my lease in May, and we did a little bit of renovations. It was pretty much as it is now. We did some fresh paint and moved some shelves and whatnot, and then opened up in July. And it's been I feel like Luigi in Mario Kart. I just go, 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 go. And so
I can tell already. I just met you, and I can tell from this morning already that's how it goes. Yes.
It's a fast pace for me until about 8 p.m. And then that's when I crash.
Then you crash.
Yeah. So, I had a lot of support from my family. And it was, a dream come true. Because if you had ever asked me in my entire life if I would have if this was something that I ever wanted to do, I probably would have said like, no, I wouldn't even know where to start. But I dove in, and I reached out to the small business at Del Mar and kind of gave them a little bit of background and of what I wanted to do. And, they encouraged me to just, continue with a timeline. And so I did. And eventually, if you look at pictures on Google, you'll see the beginning of 2020 and how bare our walls are and how bare our shelves were compared to now. And so I've just had so much fun. I've met so many people downtown. We have people that come back to Corpus to visit, and they specifically will come back here.
I love everything I see, because everywhere you look, you're like, oh, I like that. I like that. There's just little treasures everywhere.
Thank you.
And about your location, you actually have a really good location down here.
Yes, I do. And I'm very fortunate because property in downtown Corpus is really hard to come by. And so the opportunity to be downtown was perfect because one, we have the most amazing bayfront. And with the city and the downtown management district, what they're doing to promote downtown and give people incentives who come downtown to invest in downtown as a stakeholder, then these opportunities open up. These doors are open, so businesses can succeed through the trials of having to remodel or your branding or lighting or logo or anything that will benefit the structure of the building, so that it's like a vibrant, makes the downtown more vibrant. There is a program here at the with the downtown management district that you can do that. So one of the things that I pride myself in is that I try to promote other vintage stores in Corpus Christi. If somebody is, because I'm really specific, I'm more of an upscale vintage boutique. And when I say upscale, I really source some of the more collectible jewelry pieces. I have purses that date back to the 1800s. I have jewelry that goes back to the 1700s. And then I do have like specialized jewelry, like the 1940s. You have Bakelite, which was the jewelry of the 40s because there was no metal being used. And so the first plastics were being invented. I have a whole collection of mid-century jewelry from Mexico, where the designers left the United States and Europe to go to Mexico because they could source the metals out of Mexico. Silver is huge. And these resources became more easier for these designers. And so 1940s jewelry from Mexico, from Tasco, from Jalisco is super collectible. And so when other vintage stores, when people come in and they're looking for something specific, I will try to encourage them to go to other places. So we have a vintage map that one of our vintage stores created, and we use that as a reference so people can go around town and go to different vintage stores.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so a lot of people always ask, like, where do you get your stuff? And I was like, for a long time, 90% of my inventory came directly from Corpus. I mean, this was all Corpus. And then eventually, as I travel or I started getting into groups, jewelry, mostly jewelry, to identify certain pieces, I became more involved with collectors. And so I have somebody in California, I have somebody in the Midwest, I have somebody on the East Coast that will source, and then, and I'll say, I'll take this, and this. And those are like more of my higher in, as I like to say, pieces that you don't really see here in Corpus Christi because some of these pieces are actually coming from France or Europe. And so
that's so interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And it's so interesting to learn the history behind.
Right. And you can see what was going on during the Victorian era, the Edwardian era, the Art Nouveau, Art Deco, mid-century Brutalist, and then of course, your contemporary pieces that we have now. So it's interesting how artists take what is going on in the world to create the things that we see today. So it's really fascinating.
That is. I want to know more. I'm like, oh, I'll talk about this later.
Right on.
So the name 2020 Vintage, I love the name.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with that?
Well, a lot of times people think it was because of the year 2020, but we actually opened up in 2019 and everybody told us, oh, you have the greatest name. It's like 2020. And I'm like, well, it's actually a play on words. So my tagline is a vision for vintage and unruly things. And the unruly is, you know, just the crazy things that I think that are really captivating or artistic or eclectic. And I bring that kind of vibe into the store. And so 2020 vintage, it's a perfect vision for vintage. Perfect vintage vision is 2020.
Right.
So once the pandemic hit, sadly, 2020 was no longer the greatest name in the world. So,
right.
But it had nothing to do with the year.
But you can tell, you know, the way it's like 2020 vision. I mean, that's how it's written now.
Right.
It's so you know.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of people also play, you know, the play on words like in hindsight, and it didn't really flow. It was more like a perfect vision for vintage. So, yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
I love that.
Thank you.
So, the Corpus community, how have you been supported by the community here?
That's a great question. So when I opened in July, we opened our doors July. It was a 4th of July weekend of 2019. We were rolling like you know, people were like, wow, this is such a great store. And, you know, we can see that this is going to be really successful. And then we got hit with the pandemic, and that with the mandatory closure, no business as usual. You know, there was, you know, we could not have, you know, people walking into our store. So the community and a group of amazing women and men, but really it was a group of amazing women, created a kind of like an auction. And they had these boxes that were actually designed by artists, and every small business would donate an item to that box, and the box would then go on to an auction, and so people would bid on the auction. And so you know, you have more desirable artists that were sought after by some of the local collectors, and so those boxes kind of tend to go higher. And so then all the money that was collected from those auctions was distributed equally by all the small businesses that were participating in it. It was amazing.
That's such a fabulous idea.
It was, yeah. I mean, I wish Lisa was here so I could tell her how much that, you know, that effort, that amount of effort, and she put in so much on that it really did help. It helped us tremendously, because even though people could come in, we were offering this option to where people could auction off. I mean, people could bid on these boxes. And then, of course, we offered, I mean, I was driving to the south side, to the island. If I sold a $5 item, I was going all the way to the island to deliver it, because I really wanted people to know that I appreciated the even if it was a $5 purchase, that I was going to go out of my way so that they could remember that we're still here. And it really, you know, it was tough. It was a tough time. But once, you know, the businesses opened up, then things, people remembered us, and they came back. And then we, of course, we implemented Art Walk was, you know, there was a revibrance for Art Walk. And so that has also helped with getting our name out.
So we love coming to the Art Walk. Do you want to kind of describe for people that don't know, or maybe they're not from Corpus, maybe thinking about moving to Corpus, what the Art Walk is all about?
So Art Walk started, I believe, I'm going to throw a number out there, but I'm not quite sure if it's been 25 years. And it all started with K-Space Contemporary. So K-Space is our contemporary gallery. They're located on Chaparral. They started out as like a community of artists who really wanted to promote contemporary art in Corpus Christi. And it was a dream that 7 or 11 people had. And from that, they, you know, Art Walk came to be, along with one of the owner of, it's one of the owners of Access Tattoo. So Belinda with Access Tattoo, Michelle with Smith with the with K-Space, came up with a footprint of Art Walk. And they actually had a shuttle that would shuttle you to different places. So you went to the art museum, you went to the art center, At one time, I believe the Wilhelmine Holland Gallery was part of it. I'm not quite sure because it's been so long, but my husband and I are art collectors. And my husband also sits on the board at K-Space. And our office was part of the Art Walk stop. So people would come, we'd serve wine, and they could walk around the office and look at our collection. It was great. When we had La Bretama Park at the time, they did a mural to, attract more, the vibrancy, because at that time there was a lot of buildings that were still closed up and a lot of businesses that weren't open. And so they felt like if we invest in our downtown by inviting people to come and see what downtown has to offer, then they will come back to support the businesses that they see here. So at La Bretama Park, they had vendors set up and food trucks, and then it just grew from that.
And it just grew from that.
Yeah.
So it's the first Friday of every month.
Yes.
You just come downtown, walk around, get to go into businesses.
Yeah.
There's vendors out.
Yeah.
Live music.
Right.
So
that kind of evolved, and it got so big that the downtown management district kind of took that over. And with the once I think Alyssa Mason, the director of the downtown management district, I believe she's in her 7th year here, or maybe her 5th year. I just saw that she celebrated an anniversary. So Alyssa, if you're watching, I'm sorry if I didn't get the date right or the years right. But when she came in as director, there was definitely a momentum that she started to create. And you could see it every day. Because I worked for my husband before I opened 2020 Vintage. I worked part-time at his office, and I could see the amount of foot traffic that was coming down to Corpus Christi. And every week it increased by 10 and 15 and then 20. And it was just the push that I'm sure Visit Corpus Christi, along with the downtown management district, along with the city of Corpus Christi, did to try to lure people to Corpus Christi. And so as that Art Walk footprint, because it was just, I believe it was just People Street and La Bretama Park.
So a smaller area.
Yeah.
And now it's grown.
And
you get real tired.
Yeah.
Walking around.
And, so it's, I'm sure that the downtown management district would like to incorporate all, just close all downtown. But because of strategic, for EMS purposes and 911, or, in the event of emergency, the barricades make it very difficult for anybody to get through in the event that there's an emergency. So that has become a problem because not all businesses or not all streets can remain closed. And so we're hoping that we can come up with a solution that benefits everybody, not just certain, businesses that deem,
And that doesn't mean the businesses are closed. You certainly can still go to those businesses, even if the street is closed off.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that the downtown management district does is they do put out on the week before, usually they'll put out the map of Art Walk, so people can see what businesses are going to, what areas are going to be closed off and what streets are going to be open. RTA, they were working with RTA to shuttle people to downtown. That people that are watching can reach out to the RTA to reinstate that service, and that people that don't want to drive downtown, whether they don't have a vehicle or they want to have a cocktail or stay out late, and then they're able to get home safely.
That would be good.
And so that was something that they did last year, and they showed the numbers, and the numbers were low, but my theory is if one person uses a service, then it's worth it. Now it may not be financially worth it, but if we could maybe get an underwriter to help with that, that would, bring more people that, don't necessarily are not behind the wheel, drinking and driving. Cause that's a concern that I have, I have I have some high school students as well as college age students and young professionals that work for me. And I worry about them going home, especially if somebody's been drinking and, gets behind the wheel. But that's really, that's never that has never really been a problem.
Sure.
And we would like to keep it that way. But having that service is always nice.
Yes, of course. And so, whether it be the downtown area or any areas around here, what are some of your favorite local restaurants or shops that you go to? I'm sure there's a lot, because there are a lot of really good restaurants around here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think, so I'm a tourist, and I'm sure most tourists will agree that we love food. So I don't think there's a bad place to eat in downtown Corpus Christi, but it just depends. Like if you want Thai food, there's Thai spice. If you want Vietnamese food, there's Vietnam. El Camino just opened up, and they have some really great, authentic Mexican dishes that you can order off the menu, and they have an amazing tequila selection. I am not a big tequila drinker, but I do like to have a margarita. So
sure.
And there, along with El Camino, there's a whole Water Street corporate. I guess they're a corporation, but that's Water Street, the sushi bar, the Executive Surf Club, and now El Camino. So those are all part of one, the Water Street family. And then, of course, the Elizabeth is also part of that. And then there's Bus, which is one of the Lomax's sons. They opened the Bus, but even though it's a separate entity, it's all family.
Yeah.
So you can always have really great food there. I personally have discovered the Mariner. A lot of people don't know about it, but it is above Harrison's Landing on the T-heads.
Okay.
And it is it's shared plates. I definitely recommend a reservation, but it's so nice, and you can sit out. We like to go on Wednesdays because that's when the sailboats go out. It's a really fun thing to do.
Sounds so nice.
Wednesdays are a great place to come to downtown Corpus Christi on Wednesday, because you have the farmers market that starts at 5 to 8. You can watch the sailboat races that are also happening on Wednesday. So Wednesdays are always fun downtown.
Is it every Wednesday for sailboats?
Every Wednesday.
Oh,
every Wednesday, and every Wednesday at the Art Center is the farmers market, and all of the proceeds from those support our local farmers, so our local growers. So giving back to the community is huge for me. I try not to ever not support our local community, because they've been so supportive of my business and a lot of the nonprofits that we work with. So so those are coffee. Let's say there's so much. There's a new coffee roaster that's up on the hill, and I cannot remember. I think it's called maybe Roasted. Grounded.
I'll look and find it.
Okay,
and I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, sounds good.
So we'll have
and then of course Lucy's they have great coffee. I know a lot of the hotels probably do have a coffee service. I believe the Omni may still have Starbucks. I'm not quite sure, but Lucy's is great. Everything that they serve there is fresh. Which is really nice, and it's all made to order, so you can actually see them making your salad or whatever it is that you like. On Thursday, every night, they have vinyl night. So the owner of Hybrid Records, Carlos Cooper, which Hybrid Records is a little record store on People Street. If you haven't been, you definitely have to go. It's a great selection of vinyl, CDs, as well as tapes. But if you're looking for a certain, some vinyl that's hard to find, you can bet that Carlos will find it for you. But he'll spin on Thursdays at Lucy's, and that usually runs from like 7 to 10, and that's also fun. And then of course on Thursday, the third Thursday, is the Art Museum of South Texas. They do what they call their third Thursday, and that's a market, a DJ. They usually have a poet session. They will have performers. Like sometimes they'll invite the Harbor Playhouse, if they're in production, to come and do a couple of scenes from if it's a musical that they're performing. So the Art Museum of South Texas is also it's a great thing to do on third Thursday. It's also free and they're open till 9. So, for young professionals, that's great. A lot of times people always say, this really, I don't go downtown because there's nothing to do. Well,
right. People don't know that there is actually a lot of things to do.
Yeah, a lot
right?
of. They're just about every weekend from March until probably November, there's an event going on. A festival's going on. The Bayfront has something going on. There's always a 5K. There's always an event going on within downtown. We just had Water Street had their Oyster Fest. That's always a fun event. And then there's an Oktoberfest. Sadly, Cassidy's is not doing their St. Patty's Day, but I think that they're taking a year off to regroup and really, because it was such a great success last year. And so I think that they're trying to make it, better, maybe not bigger, but better. But there is going to be a St. Patty's Day bar hop. So I know some businesses or some bars are participating in a St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, and people can check the calendars online for that kind of stuff too. If they don't remember like what days we're saying.
Absolutely.
There's calendars.
So I always recommend people when they move here to Corpus to subscribe to the Bend, subscribe to the Downtown Management District, or go downtown Corpus Christi. Also to visit Corpus Christi. And get their weekly and subscribe to their email, because you'll get the weekly drop, and so you know what's going on around town. We try to update our Google and update our events through the Visit Corpus Christi, but sometimes we get busy and we forget. But you can always find what's going on those. I would say those. Social media platforms.
Well, those are some great tips. One last thing, for anyone thinking about moving to the area or opening a small business in the area, do you have any advice or tips for them?
Yes, actually, I do. I always recommend that when people are looking to downtown, that they look at all of, not downtown, sorry, Corpus Christi. So when people are looking to come to Corpus Christi to relocate here, I encourage them to look at all of Corpus Christi. You have different neighborhoods that offer different things. Somebody may want to buy a new home versus buying a home that may not be, big closets, like somebody's maybe looking for. So, there's, but somebody may be looking for a house that's more, older, with hardwood floors, and those.
They want all that character.
Yeah, they want care and trees. Trees are a big thing. You don't see a lot of them because of our climate, but you have neighborhoods that are older, so they have more mature trees. So I always encourage people to look at all of Corpus and to ask people when they go to their business, to say like, hey, where do you like to live, or what, where are good areas where family are friendly, and where there's, young families where children are playing outside. So that, for me, that was important, because I wanted to raise my kids in an area where there was going to be other kids growing up, and I wanted to be close to their school and close to downtown. So, one thing that I don't take advantage of, and I know that this is going to be terrible when I say this and people are going to gasp, but I don't go to the beach as often as I should. And most likely is because I now have a retail store, and retail is 365 days a year. We don't take a break, but I do. And we are closed on holidays and whatnot, but my Saturdays and Sundays are pretty booked with, coming in and greeting clients. And sometimes I take time off to be with my family, but now that my children are off, I always, my husband will work in the yard, and I'm like, well, I don't want to work in the yard. I'm going to go to the shop.
Yeah, you're like, I need some time.
So Corpus Christi is a beautiful, beautiful city. You have the island, you have the south side, you have, central Corpus. And then of course you have downtown. So it just depends on what you like. But definitely my advice would be to look at all aspects of Corpus and what it has to offer, and how close you are in proximity to your job. And if you're working from home, then it doesn't matter. But I love my drive every day. I'm right down Ocean Drive, and I leave and I go back down Ocean Drive, and it's so.
And you get to see the water every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really nice. And sometimes I like driving in the neighborhoods. That's when I Google an address, Google will take me through the neighborhood versus getting on a freeway. I don't like driving on a freeway. I mean, I will, but I just prefer going down neighborhoods because you never know what you're going to find.
Right. That is such great advice. And we appreciate the time that you took out of your day to speak to us.
Yeah,
and it's super helpful.
Holly. Yeah. My pleasure.
And
Thank
so
you
we
so
enjoyed
much.
it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate, and I wish, if you guys need to buy a house, here it is.
Thank you. And how can people find you?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on TikTok, Google. So you can do a Google search, 2020 vintage. And
what's the address?
Oh yeah, that's important. I'm at 423 Lomax Street. So I am between Chaparral and Mesquite. If you'll see all the construction until 2026, and so when you see all the construction, I'm right there.
Yes.
So anyway, thanks again,
Well,
Holly.
no, thank you so much, Monica.
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
my pleasure.